Welcome to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Therapy with Chris Mize podcast. This is Coach Chris Mize, joined today with Coach Chris Bowen, who's also our producer. We appreciate everyone who's been listening to our previous podcasts. We've been going for a little bit, and we've been getting some pretty good input. And like I said, that's what we wanted. We wanted to do some stuff that would be informative and entertaining, and that's why we would like you guys to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and kind of give us some comments on things and kind of give some ideas of some things that you want us to talk about. We'll try to make it informative and entertaining.
There you go.
Right. So,
there you go. Yeah, don't be afraid of hitting that like button. Don't be afraid of hitting that subscription button. I mean, and it just keeps you in the know too. Sometimes we forget, we get busy lifestyles and we forget that, oh God, I gotta go catch up on the show. This will help you keep in touch.
Right. And like I said, we're enjoying ourselves and we want you guys to enjoy it too. That's an important part. So today's topic, we were discussing the other day at the gym. We were saying, some of the guys were saying they were kind of in a jiu-jitsu rut. And so we thought we need to kind of come up with some maybe strategies to help folks get out of those ruts. And I can tell you that it happens to everybody. If you haven't had a rut in your jiu-jitsu, meaning kind of a stagnation point, guess what?
You ain't been doing it long.
That's exactly right. Did you read my note?
I read your note.
No, he didn't read my note. He knows how it is. The man knows what he's doing. So, yeah, and if you stick around long enough, it's going to happen a lot, it seems.
But you break through it.
You have to. That's why you do it. Jiu-jitsu teaches you how to overcome those bad situations, and that's really what it's all about, right? So, like I said, it usually takes a little while at the beginning. The longer you get to doing it, usually those kind of little stagnant points happen a little bit more frequently, because as you your learning kind of levels out at a certain point, and then you think, God, I need to learn something new. So, like I said, that's not necessarily the correct thing. I mean, if you can, that's good. But it's really, Coach, I think in life and in our jiu-jitsu journey, it's always about trying to climb the mountain. And sometimes that's a centimeter or a millimeter at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's even standing still. And so when you're standing still, you're maintaining your place. So standing still is better than going backward. And I think, and sometimes people think of those ruts like we had an episode talking about taking time off because of an injury or work or something. But, you can feel like you're standing still in your progress, even when you're training, 2, 3, 4 times a week sometimes. Sometimes you can overtrain. And
Absolutely.
That can make you kind of feel like you're not getting anywhere either.
There's a fine line that you say that there's a fine line between overtraining and just and putting forth a lot of effort. I know I feel like I've done both. I think there's times where I feel like I'm doing just enough, but I'm doing quite a number of days. But then there's sometimes I feel like my body's just beat up, and that's the overtraining. Then I feel like I'm getting in a rut. And the funny thing about being in a rut, in my opinion, is sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's physical.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in a mental rut and you don't realize it's because of other things, but you may actually be getting better. And it's just unconsciously that you're getting better. You're going through the motions and you're just blind through the side control escapes. You're blind through, mount attacks. You're blind through whatever, but you're just unconsciously getting better at what you're doing, even though you may not be motivated or happy about doing it.
Right. Well, it's not boredom either, Coach. I mean, when you're stagnant, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily bored.
Right.
It can just be, like I said, you're to a point, and you made a great point. You said physical run down. If you're hurting all over, you're not going to be anywhere near where you need to be. And sometimes you need to take off, do some chiropractic, do some things, just maybe work on a little injury here and there.
Get some sleep.
For goodness sake. I mean, or improve your diet a little bit. I mean, we're not trying to say do anything crazy, but sometimes we're burning the candle at both ends and in the middle. And as we, if we're around the holiday time,
Hmm.
which we're kind of coming around that now, it's easy to kind of, well, one, sometimes you're like, I'm so busy, I can't train like I want. Or when you're showing up, you're run down and you don't, or you're trying to get the most out of it. The expectation of your training sometimes makes you feel like you're in a rut.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was touching on is sometimes your rut can be mental
Right.
to whereas
Yeah.
and sometimes it can be
Well,
physical.
yes, but I tell you, I think when we think of the jujitsu rut, a lot of times it is mental.
Hmm.
You get into that and you think, and maybe that's because the people that you were tapping easily a while back are now tapping you. I
Catching
don't,
up.
right, catching up. But that's the nature of the beast.
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure.
if they're getting, everybody's going to get better. If you show up, you're going to get better if you're putting the work in.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. That's one thing about jujitsu. Well, I mean, if if you've got a good academy that you're going to where you're kind of getting good feedback from everybody, a person is not an island to themselves. There's always that community that should be giving you feedback. And when I'm not just talking about when you're rowing with them and tapping them in there or whatever,
Mm.
but communication between each other and saying, "Hey, man, maybe try this or something. How do you get better at a little something?" Because we talk about that all the time. If you're having trouble with something, just ask somebody.
Do you think it's human nature that when your schedule gets so monotonous that you're always at the gym on Tuesdays, Thursdays, you got to do this for your wife on a certain day or your
Mhm.
husband, whatever your sex is. You know what I'm saying? Do you think that monotonous day to you're always it's like your schedule's just every day's your week's just the same? You
Right.
think that can add to that rut? It's
Oh yeah.
almost like you just feel like, ugh,
Yeah.
just keep doing the same thing.
I tell you too. I think the energy of your class and you and me, we've been the kind of the I won't say the victim. We've been the recipient of this. You come in, and we were just talking about this off mic a while ago. You go into a class and you're ready to rock. Ooh, here we go, man! I know what we're doing tonight. This is
Hmm.
what we're gonna do. I hope everybody's excited. Get in
Hmm.
there. It's like
Crickets.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, it's walking.
Walking Dead, baby. You're just in there, and everybody's just not feeling it. Not you can just feel it's like
They just showed up to show up.
showed up, and it's not their fault necessarily, but they're just not there.
Right.
And sometimes you can pull them out of that,
Yeah.
but it's still
But on the flip side, I've had instructors that way. You
oh
can
yeah,
just tell, man, you come in and you're just like, I'm going to learn something today.
hmm
And for whatever reason,
hmm
the instructors, you don't know what's going on in people's lives. They're either
hmm
tired or they
hmm
got something on their mind that you don't know
hmm
about. And they're looking at you the same way. So
right,
it's a weird thing that you got to balance out. You know, the rut can be at any stage of your jujitsu career. It doesn't matter
right,
whether you're a white belt or
right,
you're a three stripe black. You know, it's a weird emotion, and it's a human emotion,
right.
really.
Oh yeah,
And so my question as a coach,
hmm
and trying to learn the ways of coaching myself, what is let's throw some ideas. What's some good things that to break that rut? If you see somebody or more than one person in your class, you're like, I can kind of get a feel these guys are rutting a little
hmm
bit.
hmm hmm
What do you do? What do you mean? Can you let's throw it to the wayside? Your curriculum to the
oh
wayside. Is
yeah,
there something that
oh
you
yeah,
can do just to get somebody fired up? Just teach them something.
right.
And I'm not talking about a flying squirrel upside down
No,
armbar, but is there
right.
something you can do to make the class?
hmm
Let's just break it up.
Well, one of the anyway, we could talk a long time about that. I've been playing with some stuff now. I've been really focused a lot for me personally on movement development, not just like gymnastica natural and stuff like that, but like doing it in groupings, not like a flow, but more like positional, letting the techniques teach body movement
Hmm.
in our jujitsu. And I think that really helps people kind of they feel how jujitsu is supposed to feel better. That I think that's a big piece.
Hmm.
There's like that connection we talk about in jujitsu. How do you teach that to somebody? You
Hmm.
can talk them through it. You can show them how it feels, but you've got to come up with movement patterns that actually will facilitate them learning a certain thing. So
That's a great point.
and thank you.
the reason why I say
We
that,
can talk more about that
we,
too. By the way, I've come up
yeah,
with some good stuff I
yeah,
haven't got to share it all
yeah.
with you.
I'm not going to derail it for that, but
No,
it's funny but I do
I'll
have
make
a
a note.
comment.
I'm
Make
gonna
a
make
note.
a note on
That's right.
that, guys.
I do have a comment though. Is it's and maybe this is added to the rut. Is there's some people that have awkward body movements.
Oh
It's like
gosh.
they've never been taught how to.
Yeah,
I've seen grown people, male and female, that even when nobody's on them, you tell them to get up, and they look so awkward.
yeah.
And so, do you think that that can, as in the lower ranks, especially, do you
Mhm.
think that that can add to the rut? Is like they feel so. I'm just not getting it. I can't move. I
Mhm.
can't get up on my elbow. I can't get my hand behind me. I can't get up on my hip. I can't. Do you think that I could
Mhm.
see where that? I've never thought about that, but I could
Yeah.
before.
Well, I think even as an experienced practitioner, I'm talking about intermediate to advanced belts. I think there's things that people do unless you're a natural athletic person. Because there's people, we've seen guys, we've had guys come into the gym. It's like those guys that have like a 6 foot vertical jump.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean, flat footed. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
those guys can pull a lot of stuff off, but they also drive through positions very fast.
Hmm.
So they're not getting that connection thing either. They're just doing it through the movement, and that won't always be there. That's why we try to teach the connection to people. But yeah, I think yeah, you'll be working with somebody one on one, and you say, okay, now move your left arm back. They move their right arm back, and you say your left arm. They move their right arm back, and it's the same thing. And
Right.
then I say, no, your left, and then
Yeah.
the other one. Oh, okay. And I don't know if that's anxiety. You're
That
laughing,
do
but
you
that's
think?
true. That's
Yeah.
that's a real.
Do you
That's
think
real.
that's part of the rut?
Yeah, it is. It's like
It's like they're bound. They're just
right,
like.
but I think that again, we the anxiety of sometimes being comfortable in jujitsu on the mat when you have good communication camaraderie with the room, meaning you've rolled with each other. I mean, you kind of know each other on intimate levels because
Hmm.
you've been trying to kill each other for 3 to 10 years. I mean,
Yeah.
you think that you wouldn't get anxiety working techniques with people. Like, are you worried about looking dumb? I mean,
Yeah.
don't.
Well, God, I have to tell on myself.
That's the best
This
stories.
is the best stories. When and this is part of the rut is you hope as an instructor you don't facilitate the rut, if
Hmm.
you will.
Hmm.
I was told by one of our students, one of
Hmm.
your students
Hmm.
that I help coach, is that maybe I just you get word vomit that
Hmm.
comes out. Apparently, I walked by somebody that was doing something. They were shrimping. I remember what they were doing. They were shrimping, and I looked down at them, and it wasn't at this one person. It was actually a few people,
Hmm.
and they were white belts. And I guess I was you know, an ass, if you will. But I looked down and I said, and I just glanced over, and it just comment. I don't even remember saying it,
uh,
but apparently I looked down at them, made eye contact, went effing terrible. And it bothered them, and it produced a rut. And so coaches out there listening, sometimes we get in our own conscious or subconscious, and I honestly don't remember
oh,
saying it.
did I say that out loud?
Yeah, you say that out loud,
Right,
and
right.
I am guilty, I guess, of creating a rut. But
Well,
unless luckily they've worked through it
right,
and they're
right.
still with
Well,
us.
you help, but you know what? You're that being said, everybody's like, that Chris Bella, he's a horrible person. No,
That's right.
but he's also the guy that'll stay and make sure that you not even just stay, but will work with you on a technique till you get it right.
Hmm.
But um, and when he says white belts, he may not be. We're not talking first weekers, guys.
No,
We're talking about guys
they've
that
been
should.
months. They've been
I want to clarify
yeah,
that a
yeah.
little bit.
They're pushing towards their blue, and
Right, right. You shouldn't be. You should have a good shrimp down. At least one. You're supposed to have like three or four
yeah,
different
yeah.
types. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, you can as a coach. It's tough to be little Mary Sunshine all the time, but you
It
can.
is.
One thing that I've found, and I've been told this, I've been down in the dumps before whatever stuff happening going on, and I'll go teach jujitsu, and it just flips me. I mean, all of a sudden, I'm just it balances me back out. I'll go
Right.
teach, and just the feeling and the energy.
Takes you out of your
It
rut.
does take me out of my rut when I'm doing stuff. And again, even if the room is kind of dead, how do you raise a room up? I think that's the how do you another topic, but how do you get the whole room into it if everybody's kind of like, you know?
Mhm.
And I tell you, white belts are really easy to pick up on that energy
Mhm.
too. I mean, and people that haven't known you for as long as the colored belts have,
Right.
like I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Know
So
your personality
right,
and know
right.
stuff like that. Well, I think as instructors go, you got to come in as tough as it can be sometimes. You got to come in with a positive attitude, and you got to come in as that you're happy to be teaching them this
Mm-hmm,
because you can, like I just said, I was guilty of that. You can facilitate a rut in
mm-hmm,
your low ranks
mm-hmm,
because they get that misthought of this guy doesn't like teaching me.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it really has nothing to do with that. So if you're listening to this and you're a lower ranked person or you're a coach, remember that what's going on in our heads may be perceived by somebody else as completely different because it's human nature.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as ruts go, we gotta put on that sunshine where I know it's tough, but we gotta do it right, and we gotta make people feel like you want to teach them.
Oh yeah. Well, Robert Greene, the guy that did the 48 Laws of Power, and he's written several books. He did the Laws of Human Nature, great book. His books. Robert Greene, with an E on Green, great author. Coach, I think I told you about the Laws of Human Nature. That is a fantastic book. Anyway, Ryan Holiday, the guy that did Ego is the Enemy and The Obstacle is the Way, he was the research guy for Robert Greene. So they do a lot of stuff. But anyway, one of the things that Robert Greene talks about is when we're talking with other humans, we think their perception of things is ours. Like we think that everybody kind of thinks like we do. I'm not talking about opinion,
Hmm.
but how their mind works like ours do.
Right.
Like we're all like think kind of the same way. It's not true. They may not see. I mean, as much as like if you look at something and say that's blue, and somebody says, "Dude, that's purple." It's the same thing. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
it's people look at things differently, and when you're sharing information, sometimes that's why one I think that you're a very good instructor. And whether you make all those little micro assessments on things when you're doing stuff, but a lot of times we'll intervene. We don't just teach a technique.
Hmm.
We don't say, "Okay, bam, that's that." What we'll do is now what you're going to think about is you're going to think that you want to do this, but don't. We tell that when we're doing think about doing this. Your foot needs. So you're thinking about we're already prompting people
Hmm.
and say, hey, remember this part. If you don't remember nothing else, remember this. And so we always try to do that because one, we think about what we went through when we did it. So visual learners, auditory learners, but jujitsu, why it makes it so good, you do it and you have it done to you. You learn both ends. Like,
That's the greatest thing about being a teacher
mm-hmm.
is helping somebody miss the traffic jams.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, there's I think there's
the best you can.
right, right. I think there's an endorphin release when somebody succeeds like that. You have those little micro like, oh, that feels good because man, they got it.
Hmm.
There's that happens, and I say this kind of like if you're
You do that little Mr. Miyagi smile on the side of the mat when
yeah,
they
it's like
when he's just grinning. Just got
well,
that.
I'm just happy. But when you help people, there's you get a lot of pleasure from it, and I think like even in like AA and stuff like
All right.
that, when you're one of the people that helps out, a sponsor.
All right, so let's say that. Great point. Light bulb just went off in my head.
Okay.
If you notice somebody's in a rut,
Hmm.
here's a way to get them out of the rut.
Right.
Have them teach somebody something.
Correct.
Have them
Uh-huh.
have them say, student A. If
Right.
don't even
Right.
acknowledge
Right.
that you know that they're in a rut.
Right. Right.
You can just you can
Absolutely.
feel it. You can feel
Right.
you can see and feel it. Say, okay, student A. Hey, pull them, say, hey man, I want to need you to teach student C over there.
Hmm.
They're having problems with
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
and I know you're good at it.
Hmm. Right.
Go help them out.
Right.
I want you to pull them aside and help them out.
Exactly.
and then maybe that pulls them out of a
All
rut.
right, you're absolutely correct. And I think we've both probably done that in the past, doing it,
Hmm.
just trying to see if nothing else, trying to, like I said, get somebody feeling better because when we help other people, we get we get a lot of pleasure from that. That's part of that loop, satisfaction loop that we get from what we do.
Hmm.
And actually one of my things I put down was talk to your instructor or a higher belt about some advice on what to do, especially if you have one thing that's getting you. That's
Hmm.
that do you feel like this is your kryptonite? Usually there's something that you can point at and say, "Man, I'm just getting smashed.
Hmm.
I'm getting smashed all the time."
Man, getting mounted used to be my worst nightmare
Hmm.
because we've had some guys that we roll with. If
Hmm.
they got on you, it's like a damn truck parked on you. I
Right,
mean, it
right,
doesn't matter. You could do every technique you could think
right,
of in the
right.
world, and they just stare at you because they are so good at
Hmm.
mount
Hmm.
that they are so it doesn't matter,
Hmm.
you know. And
Absolutely.
so they put you in that rut, and so yeah, you got to break that out. So you just
Right.
keep going, keep going, keep going, and eventually you start getting better at it,
Hmm.
and then you have somebody that can teach you.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
yeah, the rut.
we tend to think of this is going a little bit deep, so forgive. But anyway, we tend to think of having a technique answer for something. But in actuality, with our jujitsu, if you're in a very bad position, whether it's bottom side, mount, back mount, control, your whole objective, number one, should be live. I
Yeah,
mean, I need to control time for a few seconds.
right.
I need to delay the progress of that person in this dominant position. How do I do that? And do it in a safe way. Then opportunity arises. That's the whole thing. Sometimes it's not, people get so caught up of, I've got to reverse this position. No, just live. I mean, just get on your side,
Hmm.
put an elbow or a hand on a knee, push it down, shrimp a little bit, see if you can do an elbow escape. If not, see if you can bump them, see if you can, but you got to get on your side first.
Hmm.
Usually you got to start building some frame. You got to start doing this. You got to, you know, don't get caught, but start controlling time. If I can control time, which means I'm delaying the inevitable here. If I'm not going to be defeated by just being mounted and wait for this person to do this. I'm going to start. I'm not going to thrash around like a crazy person, but I'm going to structurally live in this position for a minute. I'm going to stop time and start building some defense one step at a time. When you start doing that, that provides answers.
Hmm.
It goes beyond technique. You just have to do it. And I think that's one of the things. Anyway, that's a different subject altogether. But you got to live.
Right.
You've got to be able to live. You can't be thinking about just the end result.
But it gets you out of your rut by
Yeah,
just doing
right.
doing those
Which is one
things.
one other thing that I mentioned, which is just go deep.
Hmm.
Go deeper into what you're doing. Figure out how can I tweak something a little bit better. And again, sometimes you need, as a person who's been doing it less than 3 or 4 years, you need some help from a senior person or
Hmm.
something to kind of help you kind of do that. But you can start studying it and things like that. And you know, YouTube, as wonderful as it is still just techniques.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of flowery stuff out there
God, man,
that
you could do a whole thing on that.
we will one day, Coach.
That makes me so mad. When I was like, there ain't
I
no
might.
damn way.
That's right. I mean, maybe somebody can do that, but I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not flexible enough to do it. And they
Hmm.
say, well, maybe you need to work. No, it ain't going to happen.
Well, not even flexibility. Just we'll just get off on a whole. I'll
No,
get off on a tangent. It's
no,
like
we'll do it
somebody.
another day.
Yeah, another day.
But you think like that, you but you can still find
Let's
options
do.
on YouTube.
Let's bring that back to a rut.
Okay.
Don't go watching techniques on
Oh,
YouTube and thinking,
jiu-jitsu porn, Coach.
yeah, jujitsu porn, and think to your and get into a rut thinking these guys are so awesome. They doing this, doing that. Look, you got to understand that a lot of these techniques are shown to show you the techniques. They're not doing it on a resisting partner. They're not doing.
Mhm,
They're showing you a path that could happen,
mhm,
that could hopefully happen.
mhm.
That, but when you got a person that says, "I know what you're planning on doing. I'm going to shut that crap down," and you go to try to do it. You know what I'm saying on somebody. Don't get mentally in a rut that you're not good enough because you can't pull off something that you saw in
Oh yeah.
jujitsu porn.
Yeah, well, yeah. And when we say jujitsu porn, I did a little talk on it before. That just means when you end up, you go to stuff which leads to something else, which leads down a rabbit hole of something else, and all of a sudden 5 hours have elapsed and you
Exactly.
didn't learn anything. So you know the thing about anything you learn, you got to take it and put it on the mat, see if you can make it work, test it. You know, everything is about testing. That's why I say this. Let's experiment with this and see. We do a lot of experimenting
And polish,
and
polish, polish,
polish.
polish, polish.
Once we determine that it's a viable technique, and you know, we do a lot of that. You know, we'll be like, let's just see if this shit works.
Hmm.
I mean, you know, I mean, it's not that it may not work in a perfect situation, but can I reproduce this effect? And then that becomes a staple. It can become a staple for you. You
Hmm.
know, something, you know, meat and potatoes, you know, bread and butter thing, you know. So that's what you need to do. You need to break stuff down, and like Coach said, don't get so caught up on trying to learn so many techniques. Try to work on getting better at some things, and just see how they're going. I know some of it looks very appetizing to do, but whew,
You
yeah,
can overload.
yeah, and the higher belts will probably make fun of you.
And
I
get
mean, you know, too, if you're trying to do some crazy stuff like that, especially that you, like I said, you're not ready for to even try, you know. But another thing, like I said, you know, there's some really good instructionals out there though, that go pretty deep. All of Danaher's stuff, you know, I've
hmm
looked at some of his triangle stuff and things like that. Um, everybody says that stuff's great. I mean, there's some really good content out there
hmm
that could really probably help you. Or, like I said, do a private with somebody or go to a seminar and do something. You know, sometimes seminars are great to kind of get you, you know, sometimes hyped back up and get you excited for something.
with the
Oh
with the
yeah,
right
oh yeah,
person.
oh yeah. Not with the worst person. No,
Yeah.
there's things, you know, and sometimes you go to things to learn somebody's game, like if you know what their particular thing is, you know. Like if you go to Gary Tonin's thing, you know you're going to learn some, probably some wrestling and some leg locks. I mean that kind of, or you would hope you would.
hmm
That's when you would go. But I mean, yeah, you know, you just do it. But there's guys out there that are not even on the map of stuff that are really good. You just hear, you know they're good.
The unsung heroes.
That's right. And then let me tell you, like I said, being able to every time I get to train with a master level person, you know, I've been fortunate enough to do privates with some of those guys too. Um, those blow me away. I mean, they'll come up with something, and it's not such a detail that's like makes it impossible to reproduce, but they'll show you something that's like, wow, that's good. That makes that work.
Hmm
And it's like, you know, Master Alvaro Bajeto worked with me on my cross choke, and it's become a staple of mine, and that's kind of what I'm known for now. You know, it's my cross choke, and I mean, it just one thing clicked, and it was like, wow, you know. So I mean, there's things that can definitely uh, be fixed, and you know, you need sometimes you need somebody to go deep and help you fix it. You know, you got to like you have to pull the engine. And really work on something to fix some stuff, especially if your rut is really deep. I
Yeah.
think, you know. But anyway, Coach, that's pretty good. I think that's some good suggestions for folks. But again, like a lot of what we do, we talk about communication. Communicate with your coach. Communicate with, you know, your partners and higher belts, and you know, help each other get through these situations. And like I said, everybody, if you're going to do jujitsu, guess what? You're going to have those times. So if we're going to continue doing it, we got to get through them. I was also going to say this, Coach. We've got, I did a couple of, actually, they were video podcasts with the founder of the Casey fighting method, Justo Diega. Those should be coming out soon. So be on the look for those. And we'll probably do it in two parts, I think. But Justo was, they're kind of rolling out their ground program, which is not jujitsu, but again, you know me, I'm always trying to build a better mousetrap, and those guys definitely have an
Anything
answer.
you can add, right?
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, especially when it comes to real life stuff, and that's one thing that I think we really try to look at the functional effectiveness of jujitsu.
Hmm
Jujitsu was created for war.
Right.
It wasn't. You know,
Now you called it Casey. I thought it
K,
was Kesey.
well,
I always get confused.
well, I he calls it Casey.
If he calls it Casey, it's his
That's
system. That's what he calls it.
right, and it is his.
That's
So
right.
I mean, and I've even called it because I called it Kesey for so long,
Hmm.
but he calls it Casey, and we go into it on the podcast of what the name came from.
Excellent. We
So
look
I mean,
forward to
it's
that.
good, and he really hasn't done a bunch of American interviews, and it's completely, it's completely in English. Thank God, because my Spanish is atrocious. So, but anyway, be looking out for that. Hopefully, you'll enjoy it. Um, like I said, finding out, those guys are getting more in the U.S. now, and they had some notoriety in the movie stuff. But let me tell you, it's not just a movie art. It's designed. It's really it's very functional. I mean, pieces of it. I mean, and the study of it's just different. I mean, it's like anything else. It can look flowery when you do it, but that's more of a flow kind of thing. It's really designed. It's pretty nasty. I'm gonna be honest with you, or it is very nasty. I'll say that. But again, Coach Chris Bowen, thank you for being my partner on this podcast
Thank you for
today.
allowing me to be on.
Oh, dude, it's awesome. And again, guys, if you will, tell a friend about us. Subscribe to us when you can. Search us out and give us feedback. We want to know what you guys think. Give us some topics to work on, and we'll always give you our best opinion and draw from our knowledge. So, again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.